Welcome back to Overthink This with me. I am so honored and excited that you are spending some time with me today, whether you're driving to work or at home doing laundry or whatever you're doing. I'm just glad that you're here. I'm going to be honest, today's episode is a bit of a doozy. Even as I was reading my notes and preparing for today, I was like, oh, damn, like this is even like convicting to me, but also very encouraging to me. And I've been on this journey for 6 years now. So, yeah, I'm excited. Today, we are talking about guilt, and specifically guilt when we say no to other people in our lives, and talk about why we feel guilt, why it's important to say no, and what to do with all the messy, complex feelings that come with all of that. So let's dive into this. First, have you ever, let's see if you can relate with me on this. Have you ever said yes to something and then immediately regretted it, right? You're like, crap, like, why did I say yes? I don't want to do that. Or said no or set a boundary, and then you feel like crap and feel like a bad person because you're worried you're going to hurt someone else's feelings, even though you know you need to set that boundary. Like, it's the best decision for you. You're not alone. That is very common for people with anxious attachment. It's something I struggle with as well. And it's very normal. Uh, this episode is going to be especially good for my people pleasers, my overgivers, overthinkers, and all of you out there trying to heal the anxious attachment, which of course is why we're here. But like I said, this is a normal thing that comes through our mind, right? We have opportunities where people will ask us something, and we are sitting there and we might know, you may not, but you might know, I really don't want to do that thing. Or I am so tired, I just want to sleep. And then you say yes because you don't want to let people down. You want to come across a certain way. And then you just resent your decision. You resent the people. You have a bad time. You're fried. And your cycle just continues and, to happen over and over again. Well, this happened to me actually fairly recently. Easter passed not too long ago. And I should say this isn't a situation that could have been a resentful decision, and it wasn't, and I'll walk you through it. But I had been out of town over the weekend, drove to Houston for one of my very good friends' weddings, and I was driving back Sunday on Easter and got home that afternoon. And of course, with Easter, most of the time you're going to see family and spend some time with them. So my husband was out of town. He was performing with his bagpipe band, and so I was home alone. And my family was getting together that afternoon, and they made the plan of getting together around 3 p.m. And the plan was to play pickleball for a while, and then we were all supposed to have dinner all together. And if anyone knows my family, when we spend time together, we are together for hours, like hours and hours. And that is not everyone's cup of tea. And I grew up with a relatively big family, and we've always spent hours and hours of time together. So, like, when my husband came into the picture, he'd be like, oh my God, it's been like 5 hours. I'm like, yeah, so, and he's like tired. And I'm like, I don't understand what's wrong with you. But that's not everyone's thing, right? So, anyways, when I knew the plan was to get there at 3, and I knew the plan was to get lunch right after that, I was like, this is going to be at least a 5 hour gig, at least. And so I was sitting there and I was really struggling with it because I was like, I want to see my family. I love my family. I love hanging out with them. My husband does happen to be performing with his band, so I don't need to worry if it's going to be too much for him right now, which, is something you do in marriage. You make sure your other spouse is doing okay. It's something, we practice and keep learning, but he wasn't going to be there. So I was like, okay, this is something I'm a little bit more used to. I can be there for a few hours and it's not a big deal. But I also had just been out of town in Houston, and I had just driven back, and I just got home. And I was just sitting there kind of struggling because at first I had this reaction that is kind of like my innate go to, especially with anxious attachment. I feel really bad. I should probably get there at 3 o'clock, because that's when the family's meeting. If I don't, maybe it'll look kind of rude. Maybe I'll let them down because they haven't seen me. And so I'm like processing the emotions of how other people, what I think other people are going to think, I should say. And then I was processing myself. I was like, I am so tired. Like, if I was not worried about other people, what would Lindsay do? And I encourage you to ask yourself that question. That's a really good question, especially when you're healing from anxious attachment. But I was like, okay, Lindsay, if you're not going to worry about other people, what would you do? What do you need right now? And I was like, honestly, I just want to eat. I want to cozy up on my couch and watch my show and be lazy for a while, turn my brain off for at least an hour or two. And then I think I would be at a place where I'd be willing to hang out with my family. So what did I do? I texted, and actually, I will say this first. I also checked with my siblings ahead of time and I was like, hey, are you going at 3? Like, I'm a little tired. And I was honestly hoping they were going to say, oh, yeah, no, we're not going at that early. That's too early. We're all going to show up a lot later. But I was like checking my decision with other people, and most of them were like, we're probably going to show up a little after 3, but we'll still try to get there around that time. Maybe like 3:30. And I was like, okay, Lindsay, like stop trying to figure out what other people are doing. What do you want to do? So, like I said, I decided I really did need some rest, especially after the weekend. And honestly, the month. April's been crazy for us, just busy wise. And so I had the guts to text the group chat and I just said, hey, I'm going to show up at 4. I need a little time to get caught up before the work week, which is true. And so I felt bad just a little bit, but I gave myself an extra hour and gave myself permission to show up later to an event that usually I would feel really bad about. But it worked out beautifully because I had enough time to really rest for myself. And then I showed up at 4 and I was able to hang out with the family, enjoy my time. And when we did hang out for 5 hours, right? Yeah, I think I was there for 4 hours. I think we wrapped up at 8 o'clock. I was like, I'm so glad I did that because if I had gone at 3 just to appease everybody, I would have been so upset because I wouldn't have had any time to actually rest first. And then I would just be angry and resentful the whole time. And then I'd be tired for the work week and all that. So that's an example of something that happened to me within the last couple of weeks. And so it still happens. And maybe you're hearing the story and you're like, yes, I relate to this. So let's kind of break down kind of the deeper side of all of this and why it happens. So, first off, it is very common, like I said, for us to feel guilty when we're saying no to people. And this is how guilt can show up in us in many areas. So let's see if any of these resonate with you. So we tend to over personalize everything. So if something goes wrong, or if someone's energy even seems off, you automatically think, is it my fault? Was it something that I did? Did I forget to do this? Did I maybe say something off? Like, what is happening? Why are they upset? It has to be something that I have done. So this would be considered kind of an over personalization of it's about me somehow. Somehow I haven't seen you all day, but you're coming home and you're angry, so it must be me, right? Number one. Number two, there's a fear of abandonment. So when we were growing up, odds are we might have had caregivers or parents that were all over the place emotionally or kind of taught us with the way that they were that um you know we had to be a certain way in order to make them happy, be more compliant, be more obedient, be um I guess less confrontational, whatever it could be. And then when you did express emotions, when you did express yourself, or maybe your parents are just all over the place and they would express negative emotions, you would maybe equate that as a child of they're mad at me. We talked about this a little bit last time, but you know, they're upset, so I need to manage me to make sure that they're not going to be upset. And if they are, then they're going to leave me. Whether physically or emotionally, there was a fear. So we tend to think that We feel guilty because if someone's upset, we're like, oh no, they're going to leave me because I have emotions. God forbid, I have needs, just like everybody else. But I can't do that because I'm supposed to be here and make everybody else happy and make my partner happy or my parents happy or my friends or my boss or my church leader, whatever. God forbid, I need anything. So then you worry like you're being too much. And because your fear of people leaving you or not wanting you or not loving you anymore is so strong, you are like, oh my God, I have to minimize what's happening inside so that I keep you. So we do that with guilt. There's like this fear happening, right? Number 3 is kind of similar to what I was just saying. We carry the strong responsibility for others' emotions. So we grew up thinking that we had to manage other people's moods in order to feel safe, in order to feel loved, in order to feel worthy. And when we did that, it would feel guilty if we made anyone ever upset, like I was saying. And so you feel like you're literally responsible for other people. So if they're upset, it's your fault. If they're happy, that's something you did that. Or, I used to have this thought and I still have to challenge it even now is like if my husband's in a bad mood, I either have two immediate beliefs that will come up first. And it's either I caused this, or if I didn't cause it, it is my responsibility to fix it. So those both come up at the same time. Um, but then you have to challenge. The second thought that comes after the first is usually the right one because the first one is 9 times out of 10 reactionary. It's something that we've learned and acquired over time. The second thought is usually the right one. So then once I have those feelings, I stop and I say, hey, you're not responsible for him. Like he's his own man, own dude. If he's gonna be in his bad mood maybe he had a bad drive, or maybe work was stressful, or maybe he's just moody. Okay, let him be. Had to learn that one. I still have to practice this one. But anyway, so you kind of feel like you have to manage other people. That comes up. And then sometimes, and this one was a good reflection or reminder for me, I should say, is sometimes we like blame ourselves to feel like we're more in control. So if you think that something is actually your fault, that means that you have the ability to fix it. If it was your cause, you can fix it. And that feels safer to us because it's something that we can actually do, we have control over. So the problem with that is when we always take that self blame, number one, it's not true. But number two, it's sometimes scarier to think that, like I was just saying, hey, this is Jared's, emotions. This is his thing. And that can be a very freeing thought the further along in your healing journey that you get. But at the beginning, it does not feel safe. It feels scary because if I admit that it's Jared's thing and not mine, if I admit that, then I am admitting that I also do not have control over him or the situation or his emotions in any way. And that is scary. That is something that I don't want to admit because, again, I have nothing to do with it. We like to convince ourselves that we have control over other people. And we all are like, oh, we can't. And we say all like the fancy sayings, but deep down, we're like, no, I could control him if I wanted to. Like, if I say it just right or if I do this, it will work. I still struggle with this, but no, it doesn't work that way. I do believe we can influence each other. I think if you grow yourself and heal and get better at setting boundaries and you become more self assured, positivity and negativity both, but positively, if you change yourself, it will naturally create space for your partner or your loved ones to change because you're changing. And in order for that flow to work, they also are invited to change as well. So that's not the same as control. That I would say is influence and just kind of a natural progression. But controlling, where I literally say, I can control you and keep this from happening, is not a thing. That does not exist. So, again, coming with guilt, you feel like it's a sense of control when you blame yourself for things because then you're like, I can fix it. And so these are things that happens a lot. We do this because we think all of these things are how we protect relationships. It's how we maintain what we define as closeness. And it's also how we avoid being abandoned in our relationships, is what we tell ourselves. Now, a quick deep dive here, even further, of why we do this. So, this is diving into more of the origin of anxious attachment, how it showed up for you. And so, I put this in here so that we could kind of educate and explore the root causes of why we do all the things, like the source of the symptoms, right? So, we do this a lot, and anxious attachment happens a lot when we have experienced inconsistent, conditional, or unpredictable support or emotions from our caregivers, parents. Um, the consistency could be that the parent could have been very warm and attentive, and then other times be very stressed, be very distracted, rejecting, emotionally unavailable. And so when your parents up and down like that, you don't really know which version you're going to be dealing with. And so out of protection and self-preservation, you learn I need to stay as low and mellow as possible so that if I'm really good and really careful and not too much here and I don't trigger them, because again, we feel responsible for other people, if I don't do that, then they'll love me, they'll be safe, everything will be good. We can go back to loving and nice mom or dad. Okay. Another thing could be if caregivers are overwhelmed. So your parents or grandparents, whoever it was, they're overwhelmed. Maybe they were emotionally immature. Or the big one is they made you feel responsible for their feelings. So you're like, you didn't hang out with me. Now I'm in a bad mood. Or, if you would have picked up my call, maybe I would have, you showed that you cared. Or, you know, they make you feel like when they get angry, depressed, anxious, and upset, then they expect you to do something about it. And that's really difficult. There's a lot of study behind what happens when parents treat their kids like peers or want their kids to parent them. Very unhealthy, very toxic, and very damaging for the child, because the child, as we talked about last time, is supposed to be a child. There's a reason why there's a parent and child role, and anytime it tries to swap, especially during childhood, it's very confusing for the kid because the kid is essentially kind of robbed from being a kid a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot. And they're set up to be a parent. They don't know what to do, but they suddenly are being told by this adult that they trust that they're responsible. It's their job to fix the situation, to make things better. So then the kid is now caught in this terrible cycle of, I got to do something to make mom happy again or make dad love me. I got to do this. And that's a terrible way to grow up. And it's sad and it happens. And again, a lot of this goes back to parents and their inability to cope and have emotional regulation as they were growing up. And so then they just put it on their kids because odds are their parents did the same thing. So it's a vicious cycle, but that can happen. And so again, we are taught like we gotta do something. I gotta stick around and make mom and dad happy, or I gotta do this, otherwise they're gonna be mad. They're gonna withhold things from me, they're gonna discipline me, and there are consequences. It also could be if your parents were emotionally like neglectful or put shame around your needs, like stop crying, toughen up, stop taking that personally, stop causing a scene. Those things can also make you feel like, you know, your needs are wrong. and you need to change them or fix them or get rid of them because this is going to cause problems with your parents and therefore your security and love and sense of self and stability. And so if they do that, you're going to feel scared. And then again, the fear of abandonment, like we talked about. If your parent ever like physically left, if they're upset with you, or emotionally like stonewalled you and just like ignored you or didn't talk to you for days or whatever, that can make you feel like I got to be on my best behavior. I'll love you if you do this. Like, you better get good grades. You better not mess up like all the other kids. That's going to make you feel like your approval's on the line. It's very conditional and you have to be perfect. You got to be obedient and compliant in order to keep that. And so we do these things. This is why we do all these things. It makes so much sense. If you experience one of these things, some of these things, all of these things with your parents in your childhood, it makes sense why saying no is so terrifying in our relationships as adults. So I just want you to know all of that stuff is how we survived in our childhood. That's what we were taught, and we learned from experience what to do to make things happy and good and safe, and what to do and what happens or what we do that would make the opposite happen. So, these are all protective survival skills that we learn to make it and to feel like we're going to be okay. And so I want you to start to practice having grace with yourself. And honestly, that's like number one. You have to start learning how to have self compassion for your own story and the way that you show up in your relationships as an adult, with dating, with your spouse, with your friends, family, even the way you see yourself. You do these things because you had very legitimate and valid reasons. You had legitimate experiences that would cause anyone to come to those conclusions growing up. So I want you just to have a lot more compassion, practice that grace when you're thinking about these qualities or seeing these qualities in yourself and being like, wow, what an idiot. You're very normal. You're not an idiot. I hope you hear that. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. These are things you did to survive, and they made sense. Now, though, most of us are, if you're an adult, maybe even if you're still living at your parents' house, because we all know the freaking housing market is terrible right now. Still, if you're an adult, you have some independence. Maybe you're living alone or you're married now or whatever. If it's hard to do these things, that's okay. We just have to retrain our brain and understand, first off, why we're there and then understand how to get out of it. One other thing I do want to touch on really fast is here's the danger of not healing through anxious attachment and working towards a secure attachment self, something that's emotionally healthy, safe, stable, self-assured, healthy boundaries. The reason why it's dangerous to not go towards this and to continually let yourself stay in this vicious cycle that anxious attachment creates is because you are at risk of abandoning yourself. So we spend our whole lives terrified that people are going to leave us. But I want you to see this and I want you to understand this. When you choose, every single time you choose to tell yourself, my feelings and emotions are not as important as other people around me. My husband's needs are more important than mine. I need to diminish, push aside, or invalidate myself in order to keep the peace. You are literally detaching from your own soul and core self. You are abandoning yourself. And that is what it is. It is abuse. It is self abuse. And I know that's a really strong thing to say. And some of you might be like, well, okay, Lindsay, that's a little dramatic. No, it's not. That is what you're doing. When other people do that to us, I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase gaslighting is a thing. Look it up. But it's basically a form of emotional manipulation where someone tries to make you doubt your own reality, memory, or feelings. That is gaslighting. If you listen to episode 1, if you haven't, go back and listen to it. But I touch on my big, pivotal, life-changing story. I guess what happened to me right before I started my healing was I was previously engaged to a very emotionally abusive, toxic person, and I caught him cheating 5 weeks before the wedding. And when I caught it, like I saw the evidence, he literally tried to manipulate me in the moment and said, "There is nothing there, Lindsay. You didn't see anything." I said, "Give me your damn phone. I want to see that message that I just saw." And he said, "There is no message." I said, "The hell there isn't." Like, I saw it. And it was this back and forth, wild conversation. And then finally he admitted, "Well, I deleted it." And I'm giving you that example just to say that's a very tiny example, but that is gaslighting to its core. It's saying, "Lindsay, you're crazy. That did not happen. You're making it up. You didn't see shit." Thank God, honestly, with everything that's been going on, I'm so grateful that I still had me. I still had Lindsay in there. I still had my gut enough to say, "Bullshit. Like, you can't convince me. You can't try to convince me that I'm lying, that I'm making this up. You can't tell me that my reality is not real because I saw it." And I'm so proud that I hung on to that, and I think that's what I'm saying is when someone tries to make you feel like you're crazy, when you dismiss your own needs, you're doing the same thing to yourself. And that's heavy and it's sad. And I want you to see it for what it is. It's not to beat ourselves up, it's to say, "Hey, I want to tell you this." Literally, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, I want to look directly in the camera and say, "You are valuable. Your needs matter. And stop abusing yourself. Stop dismissing your own needs because you deserve to have needs." I want to ask this question to you. I asked this with my Healing Anxious Attachment group course I did last year or last fall. I asked the ladies in this group this very question, and I said, why do other people's needs matter more than yours? I want you to sit on that for a second. Like that is the question here. Why? Why does it matter? Why do they matter more than you? And that's a deep question. That is challenging, but I want you to think about it. I want it to hit, I want it to be a little uncomfortable for you to ask this question because that is the question you need to answer. You need to let that go a little bit deeper and see what comes up to the surface. You might even be feeling a little bit of emotion right now as you're hearing me ask this question. But I want you to challenge that a little bit. Like why does it matter? Why do they matter more than you? How come your needs are too much? Like truly, why are they too much? Because someone told you they were? I'm sorry to tell you that wasn't true. You're not too much. And odds are you probably grew up with some emotions in your household and they had needs. They were allowed to have good days, to have bad days, to have to express themselves, to need days to rest. And how come you can't do that? Are you not a fellow human being and person that lives on this planet? You breathe the air, you take up space, you have your own freaking life to live. Why are you not allowed to have that? There's so much I could say on this, honestly. I will probably have many episodes covering different aspects of this, but without going to every single thing here, I just want you to ask yourself that question. I want you to think about it. And I want you to just stop disconnecting from yourself. I want you to stop gaslighting yourself. And I want you to advocate for your own needs and start to validate. That's why validating is so important because when you validate, you are telling yourself, hey, Lindsay, your needs matter and I want to hear about them. And that's a valid feeling that you have. I want you to start to be able to practice that with yourself because that's how healing. You have to heal your internal world. Healing anxious attachment is honestly all about inner healing. It's self-trust. It's building trust with yourself. It's validating yourself. It's loving yourself. Has nothing to do with the people around you. When you set boundaries, it is for you. It is not for them. That is something I learned in therapy. When you set a boundary, it is not for them. It is for you. So if you need to say, no, I do not want to get there to the Easter hangout at 3 o'clock because I need a break. I'm doing that for me. You also don't set boundaries to punish people and be like, well, if you do this, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Don't do that. Just be like, hey, if you raise your voice at me, I'm going to leave the room because you can't control other people, but you can protect yourself. And those are things that we're practicing with this whole guilt thing, saying, no, it's for you. It's how you honor yourself. And truly, it's probably just a life of you not honoring your needs the way that you needed to. And I did the same thing. And now we're starting that today. Today, we're going to start changing that and doing things differently so that we can experience peace. We can experience confidence and just, I guess, kind of a more steady emotional experience because you're not thrashed around in the ocean of trying to manage other people your whole life. You're managing yourself. And that's doable. That's what we were made for, is to manage us. We have a brain, we have emotions, we have our own unique personality. Every other person has the exact same thing going on. So why are we trying to control other people and manage other things? Like, we're all responsible for ourselves, responsible for our own emotions. Otherwise, we share one giant brain. What's the point of us having individuality if we're all just supposed to control everybody else? You know what I mean? Anyways, let's keep going. So here we'll just say, how do we move, forward with this? How can you practice today how to do this? And I've already given you little things I want you to do, questions I want you to ask, things like that. But number one is, in the spirit of honoring your own needs, setting boundaries, and honestly, holding your ground a little bit. Because when you start setting boundaries, by the way, people are probably you might experience negative reactions because people are used to you being the same way. And when you change, it changes the whole dynamic. And some people don't like that, especially people who are used to controlling you. So if you experience that, it's not a bad thing. It just means you're changing something, doing something new, and odds are you're probably doing it right. So just so you know. But here's a couple of things you can do is, one, like a calming script or a way to say a boundary or make a boundary that is fair and loving. Because I think a lot of us worry we don't want to hurt other people, and that's fair. We shouldn't go around wanting to hurt people, but we also, again, can't control how they react or what happens. So we just got to do what we got to do. So here's an example of a gentle boundary. You can say, I'd love to support you, but I need some time to myself right now. Can we chat later? So if someone's trying to come to you, maybe they're like really emotionally draining or tend to lean on you all the time, and they really want to come talk to you and you just don't have the bandwidth or you just literally don't have the time, you can say, I'd love to support you. I want to be here for you. But I do need some time to myself. Can we chat later though? That can help, where you say positive, like, I love you. This is a fact. I care about you. I want to support you. The next fact is, I am at my limit right now and I can't do that, or I am so busy, but can we chat later? That can be really helpful for anxious attachment, as it's not like a hard no, because then we feel like we're completely out of control. It's going to spiral. It feels a little too scary sometimes at first. So a good middle ground is to say, I can't do that, but I can do this. Like, can we do it another time? So that way it has like a resolve and it has like a close to it. It's not just open. So you can try stuff like that when you're setting boundaries or when you're saying no, is to just be like, no, not right now, but later. Yes, I can do that. So you can try that. And it does, it affirms your care for people, um, but without like people pleasing for them, and you're not rejecting them. You're just saying, hey, I got to do this a little later. So that's that. The next thing I would say moving forward is just understanding your nervous system. So, like, our brains are literally designed to protect us. And a lot of times, safety for our brain means the same. Anything that is predictable or the same feels the most safe. And so, anytime we change that, it can feel very risky. And so, because the brain is designed to do that, anytime you do something new, even if it's a good thing, like think about new things that you've ever done in your life that aren't actually bad. It was just like a new experience. Like, let's say you're going to go to visit a new city for the first time, or you're going to try new food for the first time, or go on a first date. Like, you get really nervous and your whole body starts to react. Like, your heart rate goes up. You might be like, I don't know, sweaty or shaky, or, um, many things that you could be experiencing, but you're just like stressed and nervous. And sometimes that can feel the same as like actual fear. And the body can't tell the difference between nerves from something new and nerves from something that's scary and dangerous. And so it's the same parts of the body and alarm system that are coming into play here. So it's the same reaction. It doesn't know the difference. So when you're trying something new, it's like, alarms, red alarms. Oh my God, let's stop this at all costs. That's why you have these thoughts of like, I'm not going to do this. I shouldn't do this. And you start thinking worst case scenario. It's literally your brain trying to protect you to be like, remember last time when this happened. It's like, perfect little example. Me being at that toxic relationship. It'd be terrifying to try to date again because it's like, what if this happens? When I was engaged to my now husband, I had so many moments where I was so scared because last time I experienced it, it was very traumatic for me. And so I had so many moments that took me a while to get through because I thought it was going to be bad. And my brain remembers that. My body remembers what happened to me. So it's trying to protect me. What you do is you acknowledge that. And something that I do and I tell my clients to do, and it's really helpful, is to say, brain, thank you so much for trying to protect me. I want you to know I am safe. And so you don't have to do that anymore, but thank you so much. Like, thank you for trying to protect me. I see what you're doing, but I'm safe. I'm okay. Like, I'm going on a date or I'm going to a new like a new city. It's going to be fun. It's scary, sure. The unknown is scary, but it doesn't mean it's bad. So just understanding how your body works when you try to set a boundary, it might be like, holy shit, what do you think you're doing? I should be like, it's fine. I'm okay. And honestly, the true people, healthy people in your life that really love you are not going to leave you if you take care of your own needs. That's crazy. Like, no. If they're good people, they'll stick around. If they're not, then they may not have been good in your life in the first place, but that's another topic. And then lastly, kind of going along with that is like reframing. So that what I just told you is a way to reframe what's happening to your brain, to your nervous system. Just be like, hey, you're doing okay. And if you do feel guilty for saying no specifically, and we're talking about setting the boundaries and all that, you can say, I'm not doing something wrong here. I'm just choosing myself. I'm choosing to honor myself. That is literally all that I'm doing. And I'm allowed to do that because everyone else in the world is allowed to do it. So can I. So, in wrapping up, I know we said a lot, we've covered a lot today, but I just want to remind you that having guilt is not wrong and it's actually makes a lot of sense based on how you experienced your like how your what your world was like when you were growing up. It makes so much sense. I hope you can look at it with a little bit more understanding and compassion and just be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense why I do that. And just knowing that being aware of yourself when you try to over personalize, when you're scared of being abandoned, maybe like actually challenging that, be like, am I really going to be abandoned right now? Like, really? Or am I just like, really just, it's just like an old, outdated alarm system that just keeps going off that I just need to like interrupt and be like, hey, this isn't even accurate, right? And yeah, like recognizing when you're trying to control the situation by taking blame, like understanding, hey, that's not how life works. And you got to let that control go a little bit. And just basically just picking up on those things in yourself and your life where you're feeling guilty and why, and the things that we do to avoid the guilt. And also remembering that when we do that, we are disconnecting from ourselves. We are doing a form of self abandonment. And in my opinion, a form of self abuse, emotional abuse. And we need to start advocating for ourselves against ourselves. You need to become, as my dad would say, be your biggest cheerleader or be their biggest cheerleader, is how he would always say it. But I've taken it over the years now as be my own biggest cheerleader. Like, hey, no, Lindsay, stop beating yourself up. Like, you got to come to your own defense sometimes with like in your own mind, and that's important. So with those things, also remembering that no one else's needs are more important than yours, and you deserve to take up space on this planet. And I hope that you start doing so today. Take these pointers, try them out, let me know what you think. I do have a free guide that I just put together, and it is called From People Pleasing to Peace: How to Say No and Still Feel Safe in Love. It is free. It's a little mini guide that I made. I'm going to include it in the show notes, but you can also go to sign up for my newsletter on my website, lifecoachlinz.com, or you can go to my Instagram page, Life Coach Linz, and it's in the link in my bio as well. But download that free guide. It has what we talked about today, but a lot more additional examples of all of those things. I also have several mantras on there that you can screenshot, put on your phone, put on your mirror, in your car, and just to remind yourself about how to say no, how to validate yourself, and make sure that you don't abandon who you are and really start to love yourself properly and start to heal from anxious attachment. So, like I said, download that. It's free. Start using it today. And then lastly, if you find after listening to this and using the guide that you're like, I would love additional help and personalized help on how to set boundaries in my actual life experiences with my unique situations and people, um, reach out to me about my one-on-one coaching. I have 2 spots that opened up, and you can look at it and see. We can have a chat and just see if that would be a good fit for you. We can talk about your goals and see if this would be good. But I do have, time and availability, like I said, a couple spots open where I can help one-on-one coaching, and we can dive deeper and actually accelerate this healing process for you. So other than that, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned something. I hope this is enlightening and encouraging for you, and I cannot wait to talk again next time. Otherwise, have a great, safe day. Remember to love yourself, advocate for yourself, and we will talk next time. Bye.